Your myriad rules and regulations were established mostly for the sole benefit of those in positions of influence. June 19, 2013. The divine energy field in which you are always enveloped is having an ever-increasing effect on humanity as the moment for your grand awakening approaches. And it will be a grand awakening. You have all worked extremely hard to bring it to fruition, and the results will most certainly not disappoint you. Disappointment is of the illusion. Disappointment has been endemic, practically a contagion on earth for eons, as individuals have mainly lived lives in which their prime concern has been their own survival. They have grouped together from time to time to help one another when disaster or catastrophe occurred or threatened, but only then. Otherwise, you focused almost exclusively on ensuring your individual survival because of the nearly constant state of anxiety or fear that your apparently separated or individual state caused you. And that is why disappointments were so frequently experienced. All are one. Attempting to live as though this were not the case has caused enormous suffering, suffering that was unnecessary, as you fought and tortured one another psychologically and physically, believing it to be necessary for your own personal survival. And it did often seem that those who did not follow those self-evident laws of survival suffered the most. You even came up with a proverb to justify that way of living, namely, God helps those who help themselves. Those in poverty or who had troubles in their lives, sickness, injury, relationship problems, financial problems, were then judged to be inadequate, and were often seen as being appropriately judged and punished by God. You were each on your own, and may the good Lord help you. Even in tribal societies, where it seemed that each had their place and the sense of security that provided, conflicts frequently occurred with other tribes. Nowhere in the illusion was it possible to avoid or escape from the need to conform and belong. Those who attempted to live by standards that were not approved by the majority were ostracized and cast out. However, since the age of enlightenment, things have been slowly changing as scientific methods enabled new ideas to be formulated and new inventions to be constructed that changed forever the way in which people thought. A backlash against the endemic corruption in political and religious organizations led to an opening to the idea that reform was possible and to be desired. Since then, slavery, the suppression of the rights of women, of minority races and ethnicities, and the condemnation of lifestyles that were not mainstream have all been officially banned. Although persecution or ostracization of various groups still continues, awareness that it is not in alignment with God's love for any of His children to be so dismally treated is growing, and there are many groups, organizations, and charities working tirelessly to ensure that these unloving attitudes and behaviors are brought to an end through education and the physical protection of those who are endangered by them. Truly, the spiritual progress, the spiritual evolution that humanity has been undergoing during the last few hundred years has produced some amazing and inspiring results, and that progress, that evolution is developing exponentially. It is but the beginning of a series of the most magnificent spiritual attitudinal changes in awareness that will bring lasting peace and joy to all of humanity. The inflexible and unquestioned beliefs by which so many have lived for so long are finally being discarded. They were based on judgment by men of other men, men who had neither the wisdom nor the knowledge to judge anyone. However, judgment proved very useful to those who sought and obtained power and authority over others, because it enabled them to lay down systems of law and regulation through which they were able to direct and control people and further their own personal agendas. Those of the old order, those who have inherited titles or wealth or who have aligned themselves with them, are losing their power and control as it just dissolves or slips from their grasp while they continue to cling desperately to the few shreds that remain. In the illusion, power, authority, and control are dependent on mass support from the people, and that support is being persistently and irretrievably withdrawn. People today are seriously and intensely questioning authority and refusing to accept authoritative statements from the authorities, justifying that authority, the maxim question all authority is, in relation to humanity's period of existence on earth, an extremely new and still very controversial assertion. As love spreads its influence far and wide, people increasingly start to behave in a manner that is in alignment with it, and consequently, the myriad rules and regulations governing your lives and to which you have grown accustomed become almost completely unnecessary. It has, in fact, become stunningly apparent that those myriad rules and regulations were established mostly for the sole benefit of those in positions of influence who are driven by their own egoic personal agendas. Those who hold powerful offices and who abused that power and caused your recent economic woes have basically been absolved from their responsibilities, while those whom they misled have lost out heavily, been judged as dumb or stupid for allowing themselves to be so misled, and have, as you well know, even ended up homeless. And your pundits and wise men continue to try to persuade you that this is how the world works, that this is how it is supposed to work, and that you, the people, should just suck it up, get used to it, and stop complaining. What a joy it is to know that this insane way of living is to come to an end, an abrupt end. In your quiet moments, your moments of unbusyness, just send love to all of humanity, rich and poor, honest and unconscionably dishonest, abusers and victims, and remind yourselves that doing so is God's will because there's no one anywhere whom He would discard or judge as unlovable. That outpouring of love in which so many of you are engaged is changing each one of you and the world. You incarnated just to do this, so let go of your inhibitions, your feelings that indeed there must be some whom even God could not love, and intend that your love and that of the divine field of love in which all are eternally enveloped embraces even those poor, unhappy, and misguided ones who have committed unconscionable and horrifying atrocities, as this helps them also to awaken. With so very much love, Saul. Channeled by John Smallman. johnsmallman.wordpress.com